Carson Beck transferring into Miami as the Hurricanes are looking to finally make a push for the college football playoffs. The U maybe is finally back. We aren't super high on Carson Beck, to be honest. We didn't think he was that great while he was at Georgia, but he's still going to be a really solid replacement for Cam Ward. Obviously, quarterback play won't be quite used to what we're seeing with the number one overall draft pick at Miami last year, but I think that he will be serviceable, and overall, Miami shouldn't take a step back. They should continue progressing forward. And they start off the season, speaking of the playoffs, with the team that made the national championship, losing to Ohio State. Notre Dame. Fighting Irish will be having a brand new starting quarterback, though. Either CJ Carr or Kenny Minchey will be making their first ever start on the road against Miami. And I think that's actually going to play a really big factor into this game. Jeremiah Love is back at running back for Notre Dame, and they will probably have to lean on him very heavily in order to kind of ease their new quarterback into it. I think this is where Carson Beck's experience is going to play into the game. He will get revenge for Georgia, and Miami will upset Notre Dame to start the year.
And I think another big factor in this one is that Miami's defense looks like it will be legit next year. It was the big concern last season, despite Cam Ward putting up ridiculous numbers, that they couldn't always close out games and made games against lesser opponents a lot closer than they should have been. That's ultimately what cost them a college football playoff appearance. But they definitely have reloaded their defense, got four starters in the transfer portal into the secondary alone, along with returning a lot of their defensive line and their linebacker core. This defense is definitely looking up. It's just a matter of can they put it out on the field. Following week against Bethune-Cookman, 100% chance here. Nothing more needs to be said. And then USF the following week, another 100% chance here. The Bulls in the past have been a team that has given some of the top teams in the country some problems, such as Alabama 2 years ago, where Jalen Milroe did seem to struggle. And I don't think USF is going to be that competitive this year, especially against this Miami team that I think will be on a roll after that upset win over Notre Dame. So 100% chance here. And then they have an in-state rivalry game against Florida. The Gators with DJ Lagway back as their quarterback, hoping he stays healthy because when he was healthy, Florida looked like a top 25 team in the country, nearly pulling off an upset against Carson Beck and the Georgia Bulldogs before going down with an injury. Jonah and I are both very high on this Gators team. The supporting cast that DJ Lagway has around him and this defense that Billy Napier has built is looking very, very good. And they will be a tested team to this point, too, having played LSU prior to this game, and that's at Death Valley as well. So Florida is going to be ready to go on the road and face off against the Hurricanes. And I think they'll be able to come out on top, and DJ Lagway will finally get his win over Carson Beck, even if it's not in a Georgia Bulldogs uniform.
I think it'll be a really close game, but yeah, I do like Florida more than Miami, to be completely honest. After the bye week, just one game stretch here with a road trip to Florida State, their fourth straight Florida team that they are playing. The Seminoles going to be a little bit better this season, bringing in Thomas Castellanos out of Boston College to be their starting quarterback. Hopefully, he is better than DJ Uiagalelei because last season was rough to watch, even from somebody who is not a Florida State fan. The Seminoles should be improved this season. I think that they're going to have a chance in this game against Miami, but I trust Carson Beck in this game as the more experienced quarterback. I think that maybe, Castellanos is a little bit more athletic, but experience is a huge factor. And I do believe that Miami will come out of that game with a win. Having the bye week before to prepare and nobody to look ahead to the next week also really helps.
State will definitely be a better team compared to last season with Castellanos there, along with Deuce Robinson coming in, who is just a freak of nature at the wide receiver position, will be a huge weapon for Castellanos. But like you said, I think the experience of Carson Beck playing such high level competition, I think will end up getting the job done on the road against Florida State. After that second bye week, they will be back home facing off against Louisville. Cardinals bringing in Miller Moss from USC to replace Tyler Shuff at the quarterback position. Definitely a bit of a downgrade from Tyler Shuff just because he was phenomenal last year. But Miller Moss can be a serviceable quarterback with a lot of potential. The big story for the Louisville offense is going to be their run game. The return of Isaac Brown after a phenomenal freshman season that saw him rush for 1,173 yards and 11 touchdowns. He is going to be the focal point of this Cardinals offense, taking a little bit of pressure off of Miller Moss as he gets to learn the system. That being said, I think the home field advantage of Miami will play a key part here. And defensively, I think the Hurricanes will be able to slow down Isaac Brown just enough to hold on as Miami will move to 5-1.
Yeah, and their next game going to be pretty easy with a home game against Stanford. The Cardinal, really nothing to write home about. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the ACC, let alone the Power Four this season. Miami moves to 6-1 before going on the road to SMU. At the start of November, this is their first time leaving the state of Florida. Absolutely insane. And I think that maybe that's something that's going to play into this game a little bit. It's only their second road environment. Yes, Florida State's a really tough road environment. This is the first time they really have to travel a decent distance. I think that SMU is actually going to win this game. They are a pretty comparable team to Miami. They made the college football playoffs last season. Kevin Jennings is back at quarterback. He struggled in the game against Penn State, but during the regular season, he was very solid. I think that being able to play at home is going to help a lot for SMU and Kevin Jennings. This is really a good team that I think Miami's going to struggle against. And while it'll be a close game, we're going to take SMU to win.
And I definitely think SMU's success last season has brought in a new wealth of talent, whether it's through the transfer portal or through recruitment. And I think that talent is going to be able to counteract Miami's years of talent that they've been able to recruit. So a huge win for the Mustangs here to boost their ACC record. Following week against Syracuse for the Hurricanes should be a decently interesting game. The Orange are bringing in Steve Angeli from Notre Dame to compete for their quarterback position along with a transfer from LSU. Steve Angeli is the more senior quarterback, though, so I anticipate that he'll end up winning the starting job. They did get Jonte Cook in the transfer portal to replace Trevor Pena at the wide receiver position after Pena went to Penn State. But all of that being said, I think this Syracuse team has lost too many offensive weapons from last year, including their quarterback and Kyle McCord. That really is just going to hurt this offense. And defensively, I don't know if they're going to be able to slow down this Miami offense. I think Miami will get back in the win column here, moving to 7-2. And then the following week, they go to play a young NC State team that is pretty hard to predict. The potential is there for NC State to have a really dynamic offense and a explosive defense that is able to compete with anyone. But with that youth also comes a bit of inexperience, and I don't know how well the NC State team is going to be able to compete with teams that are more experienced, like Miami with Carson Beck and Mario Cristobal as the head coach. I think NC State could give them a bit of a scare, but I do think at the end of the day, this Miami defense is going to hunker down and get the job done and eliminate any possible offensive threat that CJ Bailey will give the Wolfpack, moving the Hurricanes to 8-2 with two road games to close out the season.
And the first one is a road trip to Virginia Tech. And the Hokies want revenge after what happened last season. I'm sure everybody remembers how that game ended with the Hail Mary pass caught in the back of the end zone or not caught, depending on who you talk to. Virginia Tech definitely wants to win this game. And I think it's going to be a really close one. To be honest, Miami's the more talented team. Virginia Tech, they have Kyron Jones coming back at quarterback. He's a solid quarterback. He's very athletic, but Virginia Tech's just not as good of a team as Miami, but we are going to take the Hokies to get their revenge and drop Miami to 8-3.
It goes without saying that since this game is on the road at Lane Stadium, the place is going to be jumping because, like you said, Jonah, the fans know what happened last year. They want Virginia Tech to win this game so badly. If Metallica could cause a minor earthquake at the stadium performing a concert, just imagine what's going to happen when that stadium is filled for this game and Enter Sandman plays at the start of the game. We might have a larger earthquake for this game than what Metallica was able to bring to the table. All that being said, we go into the final week of the season for the Hurricanes, and they will be taking on Pitt on the road. Eli Holstein is back at the quarterback position after a really great season from him. Pitt was an interesting team. They started the season off 7-0, but then lost five regular season games in a row and culminated in a bowl game loss to Toledo in six overtimes. It really will come down to, can Eli Holstein maintain the success he had last season, and can this Pitt defense not crumble down the stretch of the season or down just the second half of the season? I think after that Virginia Tech loss, Miami will be searching for one more win to keep them in contention for possibly a college football playoff spot, if not in ACC conference title game contention. So I think they will get a huge and honestly an underrated win over a very solid Pitt team to close out their season.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the fact that Pitt is underrated coming into this year. They have a chance to surprise a lot of people. So definitely a really solid win for Miami to close out the year. Our original way too early projections was 8.15 wins for the Hurricanes, and we had them going 8-4. We've improved that prediction to 9-3, and the projection to 8.0 and 4.0. So that's down just a little bit. ACC projected win total going to be 5.15 and 2.95. The floor for the Hurricanes going to be 6-6. I think that they'll make a bowl game no matter what. Really tough to see them losing more than 6 games. Definitely worst case scenario there. And the ceiling is going to be 10-2. Honestly, there's just a decent amount of tough games on this schedule, including two tough non-conference games. I think that, the best case scenario is going to be 10-2 overall. Best case scenario for the ACC is 8-0. That doesn't mean the 10-2 record means they have to go 8-0 in the ACC. Those are separate. So the 10-2 could include like a 7-1 ACC record, something like that. So thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in our next video.